Hi students, in this video we are going to look at the solutions of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship section of CMAT 26. Let's get started. Now this particular section wasn't very difficult if you look at CMAT of the last couple of years as well. Innovation and Entrepreneurship is one section where even if you don't have a lot of theoretical knowledge, you would still be able to solve quite a few questions using common sense, and we'll understand that in today's video as well. So this was the first question. And the question says, according to Schumpeter, the entrepreneur is primarily a what? And if you look at the options are capitalist, manager, innovator, and hedger. Now, when you look at these options, and option elimination is best way to solve most of these questions. Capitalist, if you look at the meaning of the word capitalism, for example, there are societies that are capitalist in nature. Most of the businesses that run for profit, they are fundamentally capitalist in nature. Entrepreneur is not necessarily somebody who has to be a capitalist. Manager, definitely wrong. Innovator and hedger. Now, hedging, if you have used or if you have heard of this particular word, generally used in the context of reduction of risk. So, you're trying to hedge your risk. Now, if you think of an entrepreneur, typically they will be open to taking risk and definitely not hedgers. And that is why the only option, the logical option that remains, is innovator. So that is going to be your answer for this particular question. So very simple question, and you could have eliminated this without even knowing who Mr. Schumpeter was. So I've given an explanation as well, just to sort of substantiate. In case you want to read up a little more, you can do that. So essentially, Schumpeter viewed entrepreneurs as agents of innovation, right? So introducing new products, new production methods, markets, sources of supply, and so on and so forth. So even if you don't know this, you haven't heard of Schumpeter, you will still be able to answer this particular question. Let's move on to the next one. And the question says, an entrepreneur who can contribute to combine technologies, knowledge, market understanding, and resource limitations to create new value demonstrates which of these? Now, this is like a core theory question. So you should have ideally studied a lot of things to answer this particular question. But let's see if we can answer it without knowing anything. And more importantly, for this particular question, though CMAT gave the official answer key, the initial answer key has one particular option, they later rectified that. And there are two correct answers for this particular question, because it depends on how you view the word that is given in this particular question. So when you look at this word, which is entrepreneur, the entrepreneur word can be looked at from a firm perspective, that entrepreneur is representing the firm, or you can think of it as a single individual. And depending on that, the answer varies a little bit. So when you read this, who can contribute to combine technologies, knowledge, market understanding, and all of that, this is basically an entrepreneur has to have entrepreneurial sort of a motivation, right? So orientation when you think of it. So this particular thing was a very direct answer that was given. So managerial efficiency is clearly wrong. I mean, you would not associate manager with an entrepreneur. Strategic intention possibly could be there. Innovative cognition, and this is where knowing the theory is very, very important, because when you remove the word entrepreneur, or when you think of it purely from an individual perspective, this whatever explanation that they have given is essentially innovative cognition. Because if you think of it, what are they describing? Combination of technologies, knowledge, market understanding, resource limitations to create new value. And new value is associated with creating innovation. And that is why innovative cognition, that understanding and awareness that, okay, I can do something with the technologies that are there and I can add new value, that falls in innovative cognition. So here there are two right answers for this particular question, and in the updated official answer key that NT has given, they have accepted both of these. So students who marked this or that, they have been given marks for this particular question. Moving on to the next question. So the question says, given below are two statements, one is assertion, the other is reason. The assertion says entrepreneurs are innovators. We all know that is true, so very, very straightforward. The reason says they convert new ideas into commercially viable products. Is that something that entrepreneurs do? Yes. So it's a very, very simple question. You don't have to have read any sort of managerial theories or management concepts to answer this. So A, is that correct? Yes. R, is it the right explanation of A? Yes, definitely. So A is correct and R is explanation of it. So where do we have that? Both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. So that's going to be our answer for this question. Very, very simple question. All right, let's look at the next question. The question says a startup in India in early stage funding under SIDBI Smile scheme must primarily show what? Now, for this particular question, of course, your knowledge is required. You have to know what the SIDBI Smile scheme is all about. But let's look at the options. It says export potential, prospects of large industrialization, technological innovation and job creation, and high collateral security. Okay. Now, when you look at any governmental organizations and any schemes that they run, they would definitely not be looking for high collateral security, because most of the people then would not have that. So think of yourself as somebody who is just about to start up. Would you have high collateral security? Not really. And that is why this is something that can be eliminated. So even if you don't know about the SIDBI Smile scheme. But now within these three, you have to know a little bit, and that is why I've added something on the explanation as well, that the SIDBI Smile scheme has some specific focus. So the Smile scheme is designed to support early stage enterprises, particularly those aligned with three things: innovation and technology adoption, which is the answer because that's the third option that you see there; employment generation, growth oriented business models. Now these two are of course things that you typically find in other ventures as well, so not necessarily they will receive funding, but the innovation and technology adoption is something that is like a key to the Smile scheme, and that is why that is the right answer for this particular question. Let's move on to the next one, and this says Make in India focuses on. A very simple question. Even if you haven't read anything, you should be able to answer this, because just see what the options are. The first one says tax rationalization. Now, would government run such a big scheme like Make in India for tax rationalization? No. Economic nationalism? Definitely not. Domestic manufacturing promotion? Yes, they want more and more people to manufacture within India. That is why Make in India was started. Currency outflow management? Definitely not related to Make in India. So the answer for this question is domestic manufacturing promotion. We'll move on to the next question. And the question says the strategic advantage of bootstrapping in entrepreneurial finance is. So just break down the question, and that is the key to solve INE questions. That the key word here is bootstrapping and entrepreneurial finance. So what is bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is nothing but you're using all the resources that are available rather than going to, let's say, get some external funding or loans and so on. For example, let's say if I have 1 lakh rupees of my own, I want to start a business. I would use those 1 lakh rupees. I would ensure that the business is running pretty lean, and whatever profits that I make, I would put that back into the business, and I would not really go to a bank or to, let's say, a venture capital raising, or let's say any sort of fundraising, right? So I'm not going to do that. So I don't want to give away my equity as well. That is what bootstrapping stands for. So here, firstly, it says it increases dilution of control. Now, if you are bootstrapping, you have the entire control with you, and that is why there's not going to be any dilution. Second says it signals financial discipline and validates business potential before external funding. This is definitely something that should be your answer, because when you're bootstrapping, right, you're not unnecessary spending. You have that financial discipline that you are following to ensure that the business becomes profitable before you can raise external funding, or before maybe when you need external funding. Third says it specifies the accounting standards for financial reporting. Not really. Bootstrapping has got nothing to do with it. It facilitates negotiation. It does facilitate negotiation in some way, but it's not that just because a company is not bootstrapped, they will not be able to raise external funds. That is not how it works. So that is why negotiation is a part of it, but not the best answer in this particular case. So that is why the answer that you should go with, and which is the right answer, is the second option. Let's move on to the next question. And this one says following factors are essential for judging the adequacy of market for a proposed business idea. Again, break down the question. You're looking at whether the market is adequate or not. What is the meaning of adequate? Sufficient. So for a proposed business idea, let's read the options. First says demand in domestic market. If think of yourself as an entrepreneur now. If you're going to start a business, do you think, or don't you think demand should exist? Yes, obviously, otherwise you would not be creating something. So demand should definitely be there. So A has to be there in my answer. Choose the correct answer from the options given. So C and D only, this is not going to be your answer. B and C only, this is also not going to be your answer. So our answer is between 2 and 3. So if I'm able to find whether B is required or not, I'll be able to get the right answer. This one says competitors and their market share. Definitely something that you would consider, because let's say you're trying to enter into a market which is already competitive, right? There are a lot of competitors available. You will have to really fight to get market share from them. Do you or will you enter into a market like that? The answer is no, right? So you would definitely look at the competitors and their market share. So A and B both should be there, and that is why I'm going to go with option 3, but we might as well read the remaining just for the sake of explanation. Demand in export market, is that something that you would look for? Yes, because if you have that potential, you will be able to expand your business. So this is also good. Treasury bond yields. Now, if you're planning to start a business, would you really look at the treasury bond yields that are available? Not really. So this is clearly something that you would not be looking at. So that is why A, B, C and E, which is customer taste and preferences. You're planning to start a business, you definitely want to know who the customers are, what are the tastes and preferences of these customers. Then only you will be able to have a product that fits the market. So that is why the answer in this question, for this question, is going to be A, B, C and E. Let's move on to the next one. Entrepreneurs are called as agents of change because, so change is the keyword here. They are called agents of change. Why? First, they introduce innovation and modernization. True. Second, they avoid risk. Now, if an entrepreneur is avoiding risk, will the person really be a solid entrepreneur? No. So this is not the answer. They follow global trends. Do you want to be somebody who always follows what others are doing, or maybe let's say what the Western world is doing? No, you would want to do something on your own. So again, incorrect. They follow government policies. Now, yes, everybody should follow government policies, but when you think of agents of change, is this in any way talking about change? Not really. And that is why our answer is going to be they introduce innovation and modernization. And that is why they are called agents of change. So they are bringing about the change that is required. Hence, that is the right answer. Let's move on to the next one. Which of the following provides incubation support in India? Okay, now what is incubation? So if you think of the word incubation, so whenever you have something which is just starting and they need support, they need guidance in the form of experienced mentors or entrepreneurs, or they need some sort of funding support, but within a controlled environment where they can even test their prototype and products, etc. That is what incubation is. So let's look at the options. Tilak Innovation Portal, Atal Innovation Mission, Gandhi Rozgar Yojana and Samriddhi Yojana. Now let's say you don't know a lot about these things, but if you think of it, Tilak Innovation Portal, okay, have you come across any term like that very often? Not really. Gandhi Rozgar Yojana. Rozgar, the word suggests that it is about employment, so definitely not something related to incubation. Atal Innovation Mission, and AIM has been at the forefront of doing this, so this is the right answer. So even somebody with basic understanding or reading that they have done related to innovation, entrepreneurship, etc., would have come across AIM. And then Samriddhi Yojana, which is again something that you would not associate with the incubation support. So the answer for this is AIM, which is under Niti Aayog, and it actively provides incubation support in India through 3 things. You have the Atal Incubation Centers, the Tinkering Labs, and you have support for startups, innovation ecosystem and entrepreneurship development. So that is how AIM operates, and that's the right answer for this particular question. We'll move on to the next one, which states dash financing allows the investors to release funds in phases, which is the keyword here, based on milestone achievement, reducing exposure to failure risk while incentivizing entrepreneur to meet strategic goals. So you ignore the second half of the question, not too relevant. The word phases is very, very important. So the options are, when you think of it, you have mezzanine, staged, look up and look down. Phase meaning there are different parts. It is being released in different phases. A synonym to that you can use is going to be stages. So depending on how they are performing on a particular stage, the next stage of financing is done, right? Mezzanine is a combination of 2 things. So that is not what this is referring to. So that is why this is like a debt equity kind of financing. So staged is the right answer here. So you would have been maybe confused between first and second, but if you think of the synonym of the word phase, you will be able to mark the right answer, which is staged. We'll move on to the next one, which says there are 2 statements. Let's read out the statements first. Venture capital fund should always specialize narrowly in a single sector. Okay, now let's say you're going to start a VC fund. You're going to make investments and you want to make return on those investments. Would you focus on a singular sector or a single industry? Not really. Of course, there are specialized funds that exist, but they would not put all their bets on one particular thing. So, focusing narrowly in a single sector will not be able to maximize returns. And think of yourself as even an investor. When you buy stocks, do you buy stocks of a single company? Do you buy stocks of, let's say, companies within a particular industry? No, you diversify. Why do you do that? Is because it helps you to hedge your risk, diversify your risk. It ensures that you are getting returns, even if, let's say, in a particular industry, things don't go so well. So, statement 1, is that correct? No, right? So, venture capital fund should not be doing that. Statement 2 says diversification across industries and stages helps venture capitalists to manage portfolio risk. That's definitely correct. While maintaining strategic focus. Absolutely. So, statement 2 is correct and statement 1 is incorrect. So, let's see whether we have that in options. Statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. That will be our answer for this particular question. So, very simple. I mean, even if you haven't done a lot of theory prep, you would have been in a position to answer this one. Okay. Let's move on. Design thinking does not involve the following. Now, design thinking, and even on the IMS YouTube channel, we have done a lot of videos on innovation and entrepreneurship. If you had watched those videos before taking CMAT 26, I'm sure you would have come across design thinking process. So, they have asked for which of the following is not included as part of design thinking. So, let's look at the options. The options say test, empathize, incubation, brainstorming, and prototyping. So, test, empathizing, and prototyping. These are definitely part of design thinking. So, when you think of design thinking as a term or a methodology, these are the steps that are part of it. You empathize with the end user, you understand what the problem is, then you define the problem exactly, you ideate, you come up with different ideas, you create prototypes of different ideas, and then you test them out. So, that is how design thinking works to create a final solution. So, out of these, C and D, which is incubation and brainstorming, are not correct. So, C and D only, which is option 3, is what you will go with. We'll move on to the next question, and this one says, in case of entrepreneurial financing, again, this is something that has appeared again, which of the following is a correct sequence of stages from idea to exit? Now, again, let's say you don't know a lot, but now you know that the last thing is exit and the initial part is idea. So, if you have to look at this, where is idea? Idea is here. And where is exit? The exit is here, which means your answer will start with E. There will be some stages in between, and then you're going to have B. It's a very simple, commonsensical thing that you could have done. So, my answer should start with E, end with B. If you look at the options, I can now eliminate option 3. Right? Now, they're asking, okay, the intermediate ones will have to fix. So, the first is ideation. Okay, so we have come up with a lot of ideas. Now, if I have come up with a lot of ideas, what is the next thing that I will do logically? Will I suddenly jump to growth? No. Will I suddenly jump to financing? No. But I will validate those ideas. So, I may have a lot of great ideas, but some of them might be completely impractical. So, that is why EC is a good thing, right? It's almost like a creating or solving like a parajumble question. We are trying to figure out what comes before something. So, I have now validated my ideas. Then what do I do? Then maybe I go out and find some financing for it. So, that is what D is. And then once I have that, I'll be able to grow this particular product or service that I'm offering, where after which I can obviously exit. So, E, C, D, A, B sounds like a very good sequence, and that is what the right answer is. So, again, even if you don't know a lot of things, pure logical reading of the question and then working with the options could have given you answer in this case. Let's move on to the next question. Social or environmental spillover effects beyond direct financial returns of a venture can be best termed as. So, anything that happens on the social or environmental side, and these are spillover effects, beyond the direct financial returns of a venture. Okay. Now, if you read through the options, margin pressure, you can straight away eliminate this. What has margin pressure got to do with the environmental spillover effect, right? Synergies is something that works in combination. So that is why you can also eliminate synergies. But externalities, right? Something that is external to the business. When you look at a particular business, they might be doing a lot of great things and making profits. But because of those, because the fact that they run the business, maybe they are able to impact the community which is outside. They are able to create value for all of those the users that they have. So all of that is external to this particular business, right? And that is why they're called externalities. Ex ante effects is again a completely different context. So that is why the only option that fits here is externalities, and that's what you should have marked. Okay, we'll go to the next one, and this one is match the columns. So list 1 with list 2. And to solve these questions, again, the key is to identify 1 or 2 things that you're confident of and then eliminate options. So first is ideation stage. Okay, now let's read through anything that has got to do with ideation. First is translating selected ideas. You would not do that at the ideation stage. So A1 will not work. Generating creative ideas and identifying unmet market needs. Sounds good. So 2 seems fine. Defining value proposition, business model and feasibility. No, not in ideation stage. Launching innovation to the market. That is launching to the market. It has got nothing to do with the first stage, which is ideation. So A2 is the only logical combination that is there. Now, what can I do with this? Firstly, I can eliminate option 3. I can also eliminate option 2. So it's between first option and the fourth option. So if I find B, I'm more or less done. Concept development. You're trying to develop the concept that you have decided. That is what concept development means. First is translating selected ideas into viable prototypes or pilot projects. Okay. No, you're still in the phase where you're not created prototypes. You're still developing the concept that you have. This is defining value proposition, business model and feasibility. This is fine because now let's say you may have decided that, okay, I want to start electric vehicle company. But now you are expanding on that. Okay, so what kind of electric vehicles, 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, what exactly, who is going to be your market, how you're going to finance it and all of that. That's what concept development is. So B3 is a logical combination. So since we have found this, we have solved the question. A2, B3, there's only one option where that exists, which is option 1. C1, implementation, is obviously translating selected ideas into viable prototypes. And D4, which is commercialization, meaning you're launching innovation now to the market and scaling operations. Okay, so that's the right answer for this question. Now let's look at the next one. The quality of an entrepreneur to recover quickly from failure can be described as. Now remove the word entrepreneur from this question and just read, to recover quickly from failure means what? Okay, is it avoidance? No, you actually face something, you failed at it. Now you are going to recover from it. So avoidance is not the case. Agility means you are flexible, right? Resilience is definitely the quality that is exhibited with this in this description, right? That you have a failure, but you're not, you are accepting that, okay, something has happened, but now you're moving on. You are bouncing back from the failure that you have seen. And that is what resilience stands for. So even if you disassociate this completely with the word entrepreneur, you will still be able to answer this particular question. So very simple one. You could have got easily 4 marks because of this. The last word, leadership, is again not related to this, though a lot of leaders will have that as a trait, but because it does not answer it directly, we will not be going with leadership. We'll move on to the next one. Which of the following pair of words given in options would respectively fill the blanks correctly in the statement given below? Ambidexterity. Okay, now who is ambidextrous? Ambidextrous is somebody who is skilled at using both hands generally, right? So when you look at the meaning of the word, right? So I can use both of my hands with equal skill. I will call that I am ambidextrous, right? This theory in innovation strategy, let's assume that you know nothing about it, requires successful entrepreneurs to simultaneously explore something. Now, when do you explore? When you go to, say, new places, you like to explore things around. So that is, just keep that at the back of your mind. While exploiting dash resources. So I just have to read the keywords that are there, exploring and exploiting. And look at the options now. So will it be to simultaneously explore new opportunities while exploiting human resources? I mean, exploiting human resources, is that something that you would want to do? No. The second option says explore new opportunities while exploiting existing resources. This is good because existing resources can be, say, technology, can be infrastructure that you have, etc. So this looks good. But we'll read the next option also. Simultaneously explore market opportunities while exploiting natural resources. Okay, natural resources, though you can use them, but we generally don't use the word exploit. And then market and free, to simultaneously explore market opportunities while exploiting free resources. Okay, resources may not be free as well, correct? So that is why the word free is not great in this context. So now you look at the word ambidextrous again. So you're trying to do two things simultaneously. So you're trying to explore new opportunities while exploiting existing resources. And that is what exactly this particular theory is all about. Okay, so the answer for this question is option 2. Let's go to the next one. And this says while conducting cost benefit analysis, so you're doing CBA for an entrepreneurial innovation, which of the following represents a non-monetary benefit? Now, something which is a non-monetary benefit, that's a key word here. That would be quantified if possible. Again, read the question carefully. It means that there is something that is difficult to quantify, because they are saying quantified if possible, and it is non-monetary in nature, which means that it cannot be measured in terms of money. First is market entry licensing cost. All licensing costs have a number associated with them, it can be measured. Brand equity enhancement and social impact. For most companies, this is a very challenging aspect. That will they be able to exactly quantify the brand equity? Think of any large brand that comes to your mind. Will they be able to exactly quantify what is the brand equity? No. Will they be able to exactly measure it? No. Social impact, again, you can't measure. A company will be employing thousands of people. Because of that employment, all of these people are able to manage themselves. They are able to maybe have kids or send them to schools and so on and so forth. There are so many things that happen. The societal impact is huge. Would a company be able to quantify that? No. So that is why second is correct. Depreciation, there's a formula, you will be able to calculate it. Patent registration fees, again, it's a number that is available. So for any company who is trying to file a patent, they would know what is going to be the registration fees for it. So all of the options 1, 3 and 4, they are things that can be quantified. But second cannot be quantified, and that is why it's your answer. We'll go to the next one, which says, which of the following entities is responsible for coordinating entrepreneurship policy in India? The options are Ministry of Finance, Niti Aayog, Department for Promotion of Industry and Trade, Ministry of External Affairs. Now again, read the options and think which one will directly deal with entrepreneurship policy coordination. Not Ministry of Finance. Niti Aayog? No, because it has a lot of other functions. Department for Promotion of Industry and Trade. This directly discusses or deals with what entrepreneurship is going to be. So that is why Department for Promotion and Industry and Trade, that's the right answer. Ministry of External Affairs, not so much. Okay. Now, when you look at the third option, right, which is the Department for Promotion of Industry and Trade, under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry is responsible for doing two things, which is coordinating entrepreneurship and startup policy in India. That's the first thing that they do. And implementing the Startup India initiative. So because they directly deal with this, your answer for the question is going to be option 3. And that brings us to the last question. The question says you have to match list 1 with list 2. In list 1, we have startup, we have AIM, we have entrepreneurial development programs, and we have NABARD. On the right hand side, we have self-employment and small scale ventures growth. We have 100% FDI in retail trade without approval, grassroots innovation and incubation, and rural development. Okay. Now, if you know a little bit about NABARD, you know that it directly deals with rural development. So that is why D4 is a very logical answer that is available. If you see the options, there's only one option where that is given. So that is why you will go with this as the answer, but we'll read the rest of it. So startup A2. So startup deals with 100% FDI in retail trade without approval. Yes. So within the space of retail trade, you can have 100% FDI if you're a startup. So that is what A2 is. Then we have B3, Atal Innovation Mission, as we saw previously also for one of the questions. AIM deals with incubation and grassroots innovation. So definitely a good connect. And we have C1, which is entrepreneur development programs that deal with self-employment and small scale ventures growth. So though somebody could have been confused between NABARD's connection with that, but understand that NABARD directly deals with rural development. If you're able to spot that, then you don't have to read even the rest of the options. So this was the entire CMAT Innovation Entrepreneurship paper from 2026. Hope you found this video useful and you were able to, if you were a student who attempted, you were able to do most of the questions. And if you're somebody who is watching this as a future aspirant, I hope you have benefited from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Wish all of you all the best.